The process of glass making, and in particular glass blowing, has, really held my interest, my fascination for a long time now, nearly 30 years. And part of that's the physical relationship with the material. It's a pretty fast moving process that you have to engage with. Working in a team, something I've always really loved, and when it works, it's completely fantastic. And conversely, when it's not working, it's kind of painful, and you have to deal with it. The way that I work is usually I have a couple of series, particular ideas that I'm exploring at a time, and I might develop those ideas and keep sort of building them over a period of 1 to 3 years even. The pieces in glass, art, design and architecture were sort of the next pieces along the lines in those two series that I'm working along. All of my work is sort of, I guess, identified by fine lines of drawing on the glass, and that is a glass line that I've stretched out and created. It's got different qualities to it depending on the work, and with the awash pieces there, it's a broad white line with a sort of level of transparency to it, a little bit of sort of sharpness on the edge of it, which is a little bit like some lines of painting. That's one of the things that I looked at. So that's drawn onto the surface of the glass when the piece is quite small, before it's been inflated, and I draw a certain amount on there and then let that melt in, and then gather another layer of glass over it. So I build that up. I do that in 3 or 4 layers to give it, a kind of depth, and also so that you get a sense of where the lines are transparent, you see that crossover. And those sort of details are some of the things that I'm interested in. I make those stringers myself. They're made by heating the glass. These have a clear core to them, which gives a particular effect, I guess. And I stretch them out, probably for each piece, perhaps pull 1 kilometre of stringers. So that just gets stretched out in the studio, and it cools very quickly, and I cut it up into manageable lengths. After the hot process, there's a whole other process, which is the cold working. That surface finish is really important to me, and really important for the ideas of the work to come out. I want a very satiny finish. I want a fair amount of transparency into the layers of the work, but I don't want very much reflection. So they fight each other a bit. So what I do is I sandblast it with a very fine sandblasting grit, and then I hand sand the work using carborundum grit and sandpaper, and it's kind of a slow, laborious process, but it's quite a contemplative process, and there's a lot of it that I really enjoy. So I move through a few grades of grit, making the surface of the glass finer and finer, and then I finish with a pumice polish, and that gives it just a very gentle sheen, and just lifts that level of transparency to the degree that I want. Well, I'd say that both pieces in the exhibition have really got a rock stone theme and feel to them. A lot of my work for years has really been drawn from both natural forms and also aspects of nature that explore and describe the rhythm that you find in nature, the rhythm of growth, the rhythm that shows a passing of time, almost to the point where you can almost get to a sort of timelessness, and trying to sort of capture rhythms that you might find in water patterns, patterns, and sand made by water or sand patterns made by wind. They're some of the things I've looked at, even clouds. I'm really interested in those very gentle rhythms that are created. Another exploration of mine, which is sort of an overlap of textile themes into my interest in the repetition found in nature. So these pieces got a strong sense of a woven line in a pretty simple way, a horizontal line and a vertical line. But what I've tried to do is, usually perhaps when you were weaving something, you're looking for a real evenness in the rhythm of it. And definitely my mother, who was a great knitter, her pride was how even her stitches were. Now what I'm really interested in is to bring some of those nature themes into that woven look, and so that there's an expression of a life, that time passes and time changes things, that there's wear, that there's big times of growth and there's times of constriction and those sorts of things that I want to bring into it. So I look for within that woven sort of pattern, that is sort of both creating the form and holding the form. I'm really interested in the sort of aberrations to a regular rhythm, where there's a shift, where there's movement, and so the line quality is also important. I want that to be different across the piece, and because I think that's what also really gives it its life.